Join us, Alex
and Colleen,
self-proclaimed fake it till you make it experts, as we navigate the highs and lows of being a woman and how the pressure and overwhelm of trying to do it all often leads to feeling like an imposter in our own lives.
On this week's episode, we're chatting with DIY extraordinaire Make It Like Megs, who boldly embraced the unknown and turned her passion into an exciting and fulfilling career.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Colleen.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's funny we always start the podcast with that. What got us into that?
I don't know.
But that's what we do. I have a question to ask you. Again, I always do that too.
Well, yeah, it's called consistency.
It works. I think we should do at some point we should have a reel that just says, hi, Alex, hi, Colleen, that. And then I have a question for you. Those would be funny reels. Let's do those.
Okay.
How are you with DIY projects? Do you look at something do you look at the house and go, I could do that, or see something in a magazine or on social media and go, I could do that?
I mean, I do that, but then I can't do that.
Oh,
I see something. Okay, let me back it up.
Yes.
Some things I can. I have some skill, but there are things that I think I can do that when it turns out I try to do them, I cannot.
Have you ever had a big fail?
Yeah, like a bazillion of them. I also have ADHD, so I have
True.
piles of things that I was into for a very, very specific amount of time that then just sit there forever. So, yeah, I have more in the creative crafting side. I'm okay. I'm better than that than I am actual making things or improving my home in any kind of way. I wouldn't say that I have a whole lot of workmanship skill, but I can muddle my way through a creative endeavor.
But you're not running a bandsaw anytime soon.
No, that probably would not be for me.
I love DIY projects and always did them. I always dreamt that I would purchase this really old home and then putter away at, room by room kind of thing. That was always kind of my dream. But I didn't ever do that. But when, at home ownership, I was always, moving stuff around, doing wallpaper, painting a wall, putting up paneling, whatever. I was always doing something. And now it's funny because I'm in an apartment where you can't do anything. And I'm thinking, I could wallpaper that wall, or I could. Anyway,
you could come over and do that in my house because I'm definitely not doing any of that shit.
I love it. I do enjoy doing it. My father was very, very, very good at it. He was a businessman, but my father could do anything, whether it was electrical or plumbing or building a fireplace, whatever. He could do everything. And I was his little right-hand man. I loved to build a deck with him or whatever it was. So,
that's great.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome skills to have. I do not have them.
Well, we do have somebody with us today who is the ultimate at DIY. Meg's done many, many projects. You have quite the social media following for all of your Make It Like Megs projects. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do. I know you. We've done some projects together. We've done some DIY projects together. Yeah. So why don't you tell those that don't know you a little bit about your backstory? Megan from Make It Like Megs.
Okay, so I'm Megan. I go by Megs on social media. My husband always has called me that. So when I restarted my new account, I went under the name Make It Like Megs just because, I try to kind of relate it to DIY. And that's what I like to show people is how to DIY and do things on a budget because we all know things are expensive right now. So I started really documenting when we bought our house in Dartmouth. We moved in the last 5 years. But yeah, we bought a house in Dartmouth and it was a fixer-upper. I'm not buying a new construction build. It's just not me. And I started sharing it. I was also in real estate, so it was kind of a way to show clients that were not maybe able to afford a big expensive house. They could buy something that needed a bit of work and put some love and sweat equity into it and make it into a home that they love. So kind of was successful so far, I guess.
Yeah, and you were also, you worked in the airline industry for the longest time.
Almost 10 years,
Yeah. So when did you leave the industry? When did you leave airline?
2021.
Okay.
So it was the year I got married.
Yeah.
And we had moved to our current home cottage. And then, I left in October of
And
2021.
you're really a full-time content creator.
I am now, yeah.
Yeah. And you've done some big projects. You've had some big brands behind you.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
very fortunate in that
Tell
sense.
us a little. You've had HGTV behind you, have you
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
You've had some big brands behind you.
Yeah, it's
Tell-
been really exciting.
Tell us a bit about the brands you've worked with.
So I, like I said, I do a lot of things on a budget. It's just the way I like to do things. You know, I'm not rich. I'm self-employed, so I'm not swimming in cash. So I really like to do things on a budget. And like, kind of like you said with your dad, he was always doing stuff when I was a kid, and always encouraged me to try things. So it was kind of a way, once we purchased our home, we only live 5 minutes from my parents. So it was kind of like, help me with this. And he even says now, he's like, you don't call me and ask for help like you used to. But yeah, like I started documenting all these projects, and luckily, you know, some incredible brands have seen them through social media and kind of helped along. I have a great relationship with Kent Building Supplies, and they're really supportive of all my projects, which is amazing. And yeah, HGTV reached out and said, we'd love to do a feature on your home. It's even changed since they've come over. But yeah, it was really, really fun.
Your
That's awesome.
cottage content is beautiful.
Thank you.
I've been to this place, and
I think
it
you're
is
the only
so-
creator in Nova Scotia. Actually,
Oh, really? That's
to
been
my
there.
house.
It is so lovely. It's cozy. It's the content itself is relatable. What's been your favorite project so far, and what project broke you?
I would say nothing really has broken me yet, but the bathroom was really
Okay, the
friggin'
bathroom.
close.
The bathroom.
Really
okay.
close.
I
man.
saw the bathroom right after it was done. So first of
Yeah.
all, I'll do a quick little review of, because I know your bathroom a little bit. So Meg, for some absolutely insane reason, decided to create her own tiles for the floor.
How cool.
So she had this little mold, and then would put cement in the little mold, and then would wait for it to dry, and then would sand it all down. And eventually, how many tiles did you have to make?
Over 500 in the end.
And she has, so her dining room table, she's like piling all of these tiles up. And then what were you thinking? And then decided to make her own sink. So you had, and broke two, did you? Like had
One broke
this,
for sure, yeah.
had this sink that she made out of cement with
So
a
cool.
bucket it is fantastic, first of all,
Thank you.
but it was crazy.
The sink seems easy now that I've finished the tiles, honestly. You know,
Right.
yeah, that project was good. One of my favorite, it was probably one of my favorite projects, but also the one that almost broke me. You know
I was
what I
going
mean?
to say, maybe the two are the same, you know.
Yeah,
Sometimes
they
that's
kind
the
of go
case.
hand in hand.
Right.
You know?
Because you were really challenging yourself.
It was. Yeah. The sink was the easy part, really, when I think about it now. You know, but I always like to try different things, something that other people don't necessarily have. And that's kind of what you experience when you come to my house, really, is I, you know, a lot of the things I do, because they're on a budget too, is because I'm not going out and buying things from the store that, you know, everyone has. And that's
Right.
kind of thing. I don't like HomeSense for that reason.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I'm not a
I know
HomeSense fan, right?
See, HomeSense
No, I
is my
get it,
happy
but
place.
that's-
But
That's how
Yeah.
I feel about thrifting for clothing. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
be wearing the same thing that everybody is wearing.
Exactly.
So I can kind of relate to it from that standpoint.
yeah.
And when I go thrifting, it's all like, I love thrifting too. So it's the home decor items I'm always going for and upcycling those, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I like to share too. But I want things that, you know, I can't just go out and buy on a Tuesday
Yeah.
that Colleen has on her shelf too.
Right.
Right.
And things that are going to, you know, are going to last because you've created them in a way and with materials that you know are sustainable. Or it's just the same thing with fashion too. You know, if you could be wearing the same shirt as someone else, and it's also going to fall apart in 2 months.
Yes.
You know, so there's those things too, which I think are very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You're currently doing a project that I again am sitting back going, what is she doing? I'm thinking you're a little nutty. But you wanted to build in a camper that you've purchased, you wanted to build a rock wall as a backsplash, but you don't want the heaviness of a rock wall. So you've purchased this rock wall looking, is it
Panels. So like panels off of, yeah.
but then you put them up and they look like cheap little panels. So instead now you're spackling them and grouting them and you're turning it into, wow, And then you're like, it needs more white or it needs more brown, and you're clean. Listen, this has been quite a project that you're working on. It's been a ride. And then there was one moment last week you were doing something and I'm sitting back. I'm like, okay, I don't even see what she sees anymore. Like, why? It's perfect. And then you were on to doing your next thing with it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's fun to watch you work. It's fun to watch your brain. It's fun to watch you find something and recycle it and turn it into an amazing piece of furniture or art or whatever it is.
I would guess that's the drive and the fun for you, is to always be finding the next challenge and how can I make this different and how can I think of something outside of the box. And so I would guess that as you grow your skill set, it has to become more and more kind of incredulous to the regular person who doesn't have that skill set, because otherwise it's not a challenge for you anymore. Mm-hmm. So it would be really interesting to kind of see the progression of that and how it evolves.
Looking to relax and rejuvenate? Treat yourself at Bello Day Spa. Located in the heart of Bedford West, from luxurious facials and brow services to soothing massages, waxing, and perfect manis, pedis, their team has you covered. Bello Day Spa isn't just a place for pampering. Their friendly staff will help you find the perfect skincare products from their wide selection of premium lines. Ready to refresh your routine? Book your appointment today and discover why Bello Day Spa is your neighborhood go-to spot for relaxation and self-care. Bello Day Spa, your local relaxation retreat. And I also don't feel like so for me, I will go out and I'll look on social and I'm looking until I find something that I want to emulate. I don't feel like you're doing that. I feel like you are creating something that nobody else has done, and then that we're now all emulating what you've created.
That was going to be my question. Like, where does your inspiration come from?
Yeah.
I mean, I love looking at social media for inspiration, and I don't really go on Pinterest at all. Like, so I never pull inspiration from that. I've also not been, I guess, I love neutrals. That's just who I am. You can see that in my clothes. You can see that in my house. Like, that is just who I am. I don't consider myself a boring person. You know what I mean? Just because I like, but
neutrals doesn't mean boring.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I don't find, like, it's just calming for me. And I'm such a busy person that I feel like if my whole house was splattered in color, I would be agitated almost. But that's just who I am. But I love looking at people's homes that have color. I think they're beautiful. It's just not me. So, I will sometimes find inspiration online for kind of a vision, in a sense of a broad vision, but then specific little projects, I'm like, I need to try something a little different. Like you said, it gets boring once you're just slapping paint on a wall, and especially if it's white paint, and go, okay, well, that's kind of boring. What next, right? So yeah, I don't know. My dad had a really big background in concrete. That's what he did for years. So I kind of, for the bathroom especially, it was like, okay, he worked with concrete, so maybe I could try something with concrete. And that's kind of how that project came to be. But yeah, I don't know. I really like thrifting, finding things that are different, and then trying to put my own spin on it so they look modern. And that's kind of the ones that do well, I guess, in a sense, right?
Very cool.
My bookcases that were just falling apart.
They were falling
right?
apart. They were falling apart, and you turned them into a beautiful piece of furniture.
Thank you. Yeah.
But again, you were trying to hold them up they were a wreck.
I think it comes down to too, like, I like to prove not only to myself that I can do it, but you get the odd troll being like, that's the worst. Why would you buy that? And I'm like, I'll show you why, right? I don't know. It's like a competition within myself to try and make something work. And I guess that's just where that motivation comes from.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. You recently did the best DIY project ever, and had your first little guy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I did not know where we were going with that.
Oh, what? Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's not really a DIY.
No, I
most
guess
of
it's
the time.
Actually, what am I talking about? It's not a DIY, is it?
I mean, sometimes, but
No. Okay, so what I was going to say is you've done your first project, your best project
One of my
ever.
little projects.
Yeah,
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I have had the pleasure of holding him and squishing
You did,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, actually, hang on just a sec. Do you say online it's boy?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We don't say his name, but we don't. Okay. So we're good to say him.
You are.
Yeah. Congratulations, Mama.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's been the biggest surprise with having a child in all of this mix?
Oh, my heart. Like, it's just, I was never an emotional person, really. You know, the odd movie would get me, I guess. Marley and Me was probably the movie that got me the most, the dog. But yeah, I was never an emotional, wear my heart on my sleeve type of person. And I swear, like, I could put him to bed every night and just cry in the best way. It's not sadness. It's just,
Listen,
how
get it.
are you real sometimes, right?
I still do that with my 13-year-old when
Yeah.
I look at him and
Yeah.
he's sleeping and I'm just like, how did I do this?
Yeah.
You know?
I did. I mean, I'm doing it right now. My son just arrived in Germany yesterday and met his niece for the first time, and they sent me a photo from the airport, and I'm like zooming in on my son's little, 27-year-old face as he's like meeting his niece for the first
Yeah.
time. So it is. You will have this your entire
Yeah.
life. Like it
Yes.
is.
It's a brand new vulnerability that you just cannot prepare for
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
in the best way. But
It
it's a
was
lot.
fun watching you put his room together. That was the other thing. You got to do a fun little nursery, and you made a Murphy bed. Like,
Oh, the best.
It's a blessing, honestly. I thought, okay, because we live in a cottage, right? It's
Right.
what it is. It's our house, but it's a cottage, and we only have 2 bedrooms. And so my husband's family's all from New Brunswick. Luckily, my family's really close, so they don't need to come stay with us ever, really. But my husband's family does, and we didn't have anywhere for them to go. Like, we need a place for the baby, but we also need a place for people to come stay with us. So the Murphy bed, enter the Murphy bed. And I loved it because I didn't have to come up with any plans. I bought this book with the hardware included, and everything was so detailed. That was great.
that's
For
fantastic.
once, especially when I was 7 months pregnant trying to do it. I'm like, I just need somebody to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
My
kept
goodness.
going with all those projects
Yeah.
right to the end.
A week before I gave birth was when I laid my last bathroom tiles. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
It's like, I need to get
Impressive.
this project done before he comes. But yeah, it was good. But it's been a blessing to have that Murphy bed because, I mean, with my husband working, one of us, we can go in there and
I
get
always
some
thought they
sleep
were so
and-
cool, Murphy beds.
Me too.
Like, such an interesting
Mm-hmm.
concept.
It is neat. Yeah, it is neat. What's a typical day look like for you now with baby,
It's
dog,
really all
husband,
over the place.
projects? Yeah.
That's been an adjustment for me, I think, because I was so used to just do whatever as much as possible in a day. And he's so busy. Like, honestly, he's so busy starting to crawl around and he puts everything in his mouth. He's, I love it, honestly. But I'm very fortunate. My parents live 5 minutes, like I said, and my mom's retired. So she wants him any chance that she can get. So I'll send him over there for a few hours while I do a project. But I wake up, I'm with him for a few hours. We walk, go with the dog for a walk, and it's pretty routine, I guess.
Yeah. Life's good for Megs right now.
It's great.
Yeah. Good for you.
I'm excited for the summer. It'll be nice to
Yeah.
like I love the outdoors and it's the nice weather.
Well, you're
and-
right on the water too, right?
Yes.
Like it's wonderful.
Mhm.
Your husband, what has he thought of? Because you guys met in the airline industry,
We did.
you not? So,
Yeah.
what has he thought about all of this? Meg doing all of the things, and
I think it was an adjustment for him when we were first together. It was a big adjustment because our personalities were so different. I'm so busy and I just don't sit still. And I get that from both of my parents, really. But my dad, like, even on his days off, he's gone doing things for other people and helping and doing projects. So that's just who I am. I like to be busy. I'm not someone that sits down and reads a book or watches TV. I'm painting something or. So I think at the beginning, it was definitely harder for my husband because he's not lazy at all. He's just likes to relax. And we were working shift work. It's so hard,
I gotta
right?
tell you, you don't have you are go 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 go. So
I am,
you're sort of next level. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he's just a normal regular dude
100%.
that's dealing with like you doing all the
Energizer
things.
bunny.
The
Yeah.
Energizer bunny,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That's not lazy. That's just normal
No.
dude. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because we've been together 7 years now, I guess. And to watch, like, he never used tools at all before he met me. Like, I don't even know if he owned a hammer or anything like that. And that's
Wow.
not an
That's so
insult to him.
interesting.
It's just like he didn't grow up needing it, or, he lived in a city and in a rental and never had to fix anything. He had a landlord. And I just started my tool collection in 2016 when I was living out west. And, I just wanted to accumulate and do things on my days off. And so for him now, to see him, he's buying tools, and on his, like, when he's off on the weekend, he's like, I'm going to go change my oil, and I'm going to go help you with this project. I'd love to help. What can I do next? Right? Like, it's totally different.
You've rubbed off
I know,
on
I
him.
did. Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's great.
Because you have
So-
all the tools. You've
All the
got
tools.
you've got all the tools.
That's my ideal gift. So now, like, we don't need stuff, right? I guess tools are things and stuff, but like, I don't want jewelry, and I don't need that kind of stuff. So
you
for
want the bandsaw.
right
Right.
for gifts, Christmas or birthdays or whatever, like, what do we need for our tool collection? And let's just buy that instead of going out and just getting something for the sake of getting something, right? So that's
Capital assets.
right.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You told us you identify as a mix of superhuman,
hmm
which doesn't surprise me at all
Mm-mm.
as an imposter, and soloist. Can you tell us more about that? So superhuman, let's pull them out here. Superhuman measures competence based on how many roles you can play, juggle, and excel at. Falling short in any role as a manager, team member, parent, partner, friend, volunteer, all evoke you feeling bad about yourself. And then we've got the soloist cares about who completes the task. You, to make it on the achievement list, it has to be you and you alone to do the project. Otherwise, you think it's not done properly or good enough, or you feel bad if somebody else helps you. You want to do all the things.
Yeah.
Talk to us about imposter syndrome and how that works for Megan, who's making all the things.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get better, improving, self every day, especially when it comes to the superhuman thing. And it's been eye-opening with a baby, obviously. I used to be able to do anything at my own pace and fill my days up, and now it's just different, right? Not only are you exhausted as a parent, but you're also juggling a human and trying to, make the world as great as possible for them. So I think that in itself has been difficult because I'm not used to being able to not get as much done as I want to. And I always have something on the go, too much on the go. I start things and I shouldn't start them. And I do because I get bored and I go, okay, well, I could start this. I can do both. And then now I can't. And then, so I think that's harder for me at this point. And as far as the soloist goes, like I said, I'm an only child. So I'm very competitive with myself because I didn't have anyone really to compete with as a kid. My parents, I guess, but I'm not competing with you. You're not competing with your parents. So for me, it was always, I want to be able to prove something to myself. And when I'm starting a project, be like, can I do this? And I want to do it the best as possible. But also, not that I don't want help, I guess, but it's that I just want to be able to do it by myself. I want to prove to myself that I can do it. I'm not trained in what I'm doing. I didn't go to university. So, for me, it's like measuring success in my head, even though I think that's wild because it's not, I don't need to do that. But it's almost this inner like demon saying, oh, you should do it by yourself because you don't want to admit that someone else helped you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to do it on your own because I don't know if I have something to prove to the world, but it's just, in a world where DIY and home renovations is typically a male-dominated field, I want to be able to be like, I'm a woman and I did this and, followed through with the project and made it work, I guess.
One of the ways to combat imposter syndrome is to actually listen to how awesome the people in your life think you are. If you're looking for the perfect gift for a loved one, where you can tell them all of the things that make them special, visit my Drawbridge Creative Etsy shop and purchase a Things We Love About You custom poster. With several styles to choose from, it's a fabulous gift for any milestone birthday, anniversary, retirement, or just because.
Yeah, I think that soloist mentality is that you don't want there to be any opportunity for anyone to question whether or not you did it all. And I definitely relate to that too. I have a little bit of soloist in me as well, right? It feels like I don't have full credit if I haven't done all of it. But that's, that can be detrimental as well. But I do understand that.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I don't have the soloist in me. I'm all about, hey, help over here, and I'm happy to get the help where I need it. But what when do you feel like? Do you ever feel like a fraud, or do you ever feel like you're faking it? Like those type of imposter syndrome ideas, or
Not necessarily. I feel like I'm pretty blunt, and I just beat to my own drum, I guess. Um, it was hard originally to start posting, and sometimes I think, well, what gives me the credibility to come on here? But I never proclaim to be an expert in it, right? I never say, well, I'm doing it right, and this is the way it should be done. A lot of the things, as you can tell from the projects I do, are kind of a fake it till you make it. I'm going to see if this works. It may not, right? Like, I don't know. Did I think all my tiles were going to work out? No, probably not, right? But they did. But I didn't go into it being like, these are going to work and this is what you need to do. It was very much experimental. And a lot of my projects are experimental. So I feel like that kind of helps me with not feeling like.
we felt like that with the podcast itself.
Still do.
Yeah, still do. Started this podcast like we have no idea what we're doing, but it's imposter syndrome. So we're going, we're doing it on imposter syndrome, so we can.
It's funny too, because
fail and be
people
okay.
ask me about it and are really intimidated about starting a podcast, and are like, "Oh, there's so much," and I'm like, "Just sit in front of a mic."
Just
honestly,
do it. Yeah,
it doesn't have to be perfect.
But that's, I think, what makes it so enjoyable to listen to. It's one of my favorites. I love it. Like when I'm at home, I've got my big earmuffs on because I don't, regular hearing protection looks so dorky. But I got my hearing and I'm listening to like your guys' podcast or music or anything, right? Because it's so relatable.
yeah.
And, like you said, you didn't know if it was going to be a success. It is. And you're just out here doing it. And that's what I like to do with my audience is relate. And, I don't know if it's going to work. I'm not an expert, but that's what people want to see, right?
Well, I'm sure it's intriguing for people too to see what the outcome is, and to see how it turns out, but also very, very relatable because most people go into projects not really knowing if it's going to turn out in a certain way. So I think it's really lowers the barrier, I think, probably for people who are questioning whether they have the ability to do those things. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, because I could see that too. Because I look at different things and I think, oh, she's nuts, and then I see you finish it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I loved the process. I loved seeing you create something, and it does. It gives me some sort of a confidence or something. I don't know. It's like
also seeing how people go about something too might give you an idea that it's not as intimidating as you might have thought it was.
Yeah,
or that it's way too intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time I had a project to do that needed tools, I'm like, yeah, Megs, can I come out and spend some time with you? And we, it was great. What helps you when you have moments of doubt? Do you ever have moments of doubt, or are you just like, I'm just going to keep on going? Like,
I usually just keep on plugging.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In worst case, it fails. And that's just something I'll be like, well, this didn't really work out. I made a light fixture. Right?
You did.
Out of clay. And I had to make 2 attempts at least, maybe 3. And in the end, it shattered all over the floor. So, not everything works. And that's okay. But I tried it.
Yeah, you tried it. Yeah. You have you've got over 100K following. What kind of pressure or joy comes from, because you're putting it out there, you're showing your life, what you want to show, what comes with having that kind of it? What kind of pressure or joy comes with that, having that kind of influence out there?
It's, I love having a community, but it's different. It's funny because I'm quite private on social media. I mean, I share my day-to-day projects, but like you mentioned earlier, I don't share my son. I don't share my last name on social media, really. I don't share where I live. People know I live on a lake an hour from the city. But I don't know, I'm very careful about it just because I didn't get the opportunity to curate my community necessarily, right? Like I didn't sit there and curate those 100,000 people.
It just happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult sometimes because you feel pressure to keep growing. But also I feel pressure to keep connecting in a way every day with my community and try to feel like, who is this? Who am I sharing my day-to-day life with? And I think that's why I don't share a lot of my private life, is because I don't 100% know who these people are. And I'm so thankful for them. But it is difficult sometimes. in a sense.
But you had that privacy prior to having your child.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of moms seem to want the privacy after they have a child, but you always have had that little bit of a privacy of your own. You know, you share your projects and stuff, but your private life's your private life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes too with, like, my husband is not into social media. He's not one of those husbands. He's like, I'm never going to be a husband that's out there dancing around like a TikTok star, right? And that's totally fine. Even in the projects, like, he's totally okay if I film both of us working on a project. But he's like, I'm not one that's going to be out there. This is just not my interest in career path, right? And that's not a lot of people have that interest. So I get it. And I think that comes too with it. Like, I'm not going to be out there every day showing everything I'm doing because it's just me and not necessarily him. And then we also both decided when we did have a child or have children in the future, like, we didn't want to put them online.
Yeah.
And to each their own. Like, I never judge anyone who does that, right? It's to each their own. But it just wasn't for us.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I've found it a little bit tough since my grandchild has been born, not sharing. But that's my daughter's choice. My daughter does not want their child to be on my and she's allowed to have that. What's the word?
Consent.
Yeah, consent. Yeah.
That
I mean,
position?
I certainly talk about being a grandma and stuff like that, but I don't need to plaster the baby all over social media for, thousands of people that I don't know to see. I mean, so it's totally different when there's 100,000. I mean, so you're allowed to have your privacy.
I think it's smart too. I think it's a much more sustainable model if you can kind of separate the two and protect your kind of your own personal bubble, but still be able to share really impactful content. I think ideally that's the way to do it.
And it is hard, right? Because it's such a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Right? It's a whole, like, it takes over your whole being.
Yeah.
So I'm different than I was a year ago.
Sure you are.
And, I love watching people's blogs.
Yeah.
Like, day-to-day life, walking around, what they're making for their kids and what they do, going to, I love that. So it's hard sometimes to not have the time like I used to be fully posting my DIY content because I'm busy. I'm busy momming, but I'm not sharing that really. So it's a hard like pull in between the two to figure out what's a good balance. People want to relate to you as a mom, and they want to relate to you that I'm a working mom, but I'm also not sharing a lot about my motherhood experience, I guess.
And that might change in time. You might choose to later share some more things or whatnot. But right now, I think you're doing what's working for you, and that's great. I will tell anyone listening that when you had the baby, and you shared that you'd had the baby, and you shared that you had a little boy, but you weren't sharing his name. And I don't know. I was probably one of the first to send you a message to go, yes, Bill girl, like I need to know his name, and. Did know his name very soon, but yeah.
And I'm not hiding him.
No, you're not.
Like, right? Like we would not like we sit at home and we're like we're not going out in public, right? It's just
you're just living your life, but it doesn't have to. Everything doesn't have to be online. Yeah,
I think there's a safety perspective too, especially since you have such a large audience. I think you have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. What's something most people don't understand about your work that you do, the content you create?
I think a lot of people, especially who are not necessarily in the digital marketing path, right, don't necessarily understand all that goes into it. There are so many branches. You have to do, everything. You have to edit. You have to do the content. You have to, and especially DIY, I find it's intensive because, unless I'm just sharing about a blanket I bought, I got to do a pretty intense project in order to get to the end goal to actually share that, right? And then on top of that, there's pitching and emailing and doing your expenses. And so I think that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand is what goes into the back end of it. So when I take a day just to say to my audience that's listen, office hours, I'm doing my work today. It's kind of like, well, okay, what are you doing?
Right,
right. But there's a lot.
I'm pitching for the next project and trying to get some brands and trying to get some money behind it or, So
there's a lot that goes into it. And it's also a lonely job. It can be very lonely because, you're not going to a workplace every day and you're not out at a coffee shop with colleagues in the morning and, And I'm lucky that I've made some incredible connections online, you know, not only locally, but especially as well in the DIY field that really know just how lonely it can be, you know?
How do you stop the comparison when you look at projects that other folks are doing compared to the projects that you're doing? And imposter syndrome has to sneak in there.
I still compare, I'm sure, you know? The projects itself, maybe not so much, just because I know who I am and I know what my style is. You know, I don't, I'm not following trends really when it comes to my home. And, you know, some people may say, oh, yeah, well, you like the neutrals and this. And I'm like, well, I've always liked that. Right. And I found too, we owned a house in Dartmouth that was our first home. And that's kind of where I started documenting. And when I look back at those pictures now, I'm like, who was I really? Right. Because I feel like at that point in time, I was going along with some of the trends. But now I'm just so comfortable with what I want and what I want my home to be that I'm not following the social media trends.
So are you instead comparing how they're marketing it online or how they're
comparing
making
growth,
reels?
I would say.
Growth.
Yeah. Because I feel like you always consistently as a human want to be improving and growing. And that's sometimes, you know, I find everyone says, oh yeah, when you go viral. I don't think it's that great, to be honest with you.
Right.
I've heard that.
Yeah. I would, obviously, I'm so thankful for such a large community because it makes doing this easier to get brands to work with you. And, you know, they see that you have eyes on your content. But again, like I don't feel as much. I do still feel like I have an amazing community, but I felt more connected to my community when it was smaller because I just found that I knew them more. And then once you have one reel kind of explode or you have content that does really well, you're constantly chasing that. What can I do next that's going to do that, right? What is going to resonate with people that's going to be this big explosive content, right? So I feel like that's kind of where I struggle some days. But again, I just keep plugging and go, oh, you know what? I'm really happy with what I have and what I've worked with compared to what I used to have. And I actually posted about it on Instagram last night about the whole situation where I lost my old account. You knew that. But yeah, like comparative to what I had back then to now, it's tenfold, right? So it's always hard. You're always going to look at something and be like, that person's doing better than me. That person has more, you know, why is their post performing way better than mine? And
so since you brought it up, you did lose an account. You had how many followers on that account?
I think around like 6,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you lost it because
hacking,
yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
Serving up hot brews, refreshing cold drinks, lots of fresh baked goodies, and delicious lunch options. Visit the Mellow Mug in the heart of Larry Utech for dine-in, takeout, or drive-through service. Their spacious cafe offers a casual and inviting vibe that's perfect for everything from enjoying a good book, hanging with friends, or meeting a colleague. The Mellow Mug is your neighborhood spot for great coffee and delicious eats and sweets. Yeah, and then everything sort of changed and you...
Yeah, because I was just, I don't know if I think I started that account when I got my real estate license because I wanted a separate one from my personal account where I could just post, you know, kind of more career-related stuff. And I was never the real estate agent that was posting, you know, just listed, sold. Like, I just wanted to have kind of different content that related with people, especially if they were going into the housing market. So I started that page and we also around that time bought our house in Dartmouth, which I started doing all the renovations to. So I was posting a lot of that and telling people how they could improve things. And, you know, I started to go with little events and stuff in Halifax and meet people like you and all the creators around here, which is incredible. And yeah, I got hacked on Facebook, which then in turn deleted that account.
Right, deleted that account. And do you think changing the niche of your account, so one of the things that we talk about in content creation is to niche down. Do you think changing that niche is what allowed the second account to grow faster than the first account?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've always been a full advocate. And I mean, it's hard because you want to share about your life and lifestyle things. I remember we went away in the fall and I wanted to still share about our trip and not too much, really. I never posted anything on my actual feed per se. It was all
Right,
done
it
in
was
stories.
Yeah.
I find that my previous account, I was dabbling in a lot of different things, posting lifestyle stuff because I didn't know what I wanted at the time, right? I didn't know I wanted to be full-time DIY content creator. I wanted to get the invites to the little local. I wanted to get those invites. I feel like a cool kid when I was there, especially since I live out in the sticks, right? I'm like, I'm going to these Halifax events.
We always loved when you came. I always love when you're at one of the events.
I know.
Not that I'm at every event, but
I love to go.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I'm like, okay, well, I have to share about Halifax and the local stuff if I want to be invited to that. And also the real estate and the DIY and still dabbling in lifestyle and going to New Brunswick. And yeah, when I lost that account, I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to fully niche down into this DIY, and it worked, I guess. So
next big project. You have talked about putting a second story on that cottage for a long time.
Yeah.
That's a big project.
That's a big project.
Yeah.
Do you ever see that happening?
I would say sooner than later. We bought in 2021. So our mortgage is up for renewal in 2026, like January. So, I mean, we would most likely roll into, pulling some equity, and it's exploded in the last 5 years, really. And we were lucky. We bought our house from a Kijiji ad, so we didn't compete in the market, which was really, I'm thankful for, because I know we wouldn't be there if we had to. So we've put a lot of work into it, and the equity just alone based on the surrounding market has really done well. So I would say within a year or two, we'll probably end up building a garage and putting a story on the house. We're not planning to go anywhere. That's our forever home, unless something wild happens, of course. But.
Yeah. Well, and what do you want to see where do you see Make It Like Megs going? So just keep on showing your projects, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I love what I'm doing, and it's something I'm comfortable with. I mean, like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not trained, but I feel like, my skills have improved immensely over the last 5 years since I've been really focusing on it. So I'm not out there being like, yeah, do it this way exactly, but I feel like I have a bit of credibility now to know what I'm talking about, and, things I'm sharing. I've tried it and made it work. So I feel like just continuing to share kind of those type of projects where people can afford them and still love their home. Like you talk about putting wallpaper on your wall. You can. Peel and stick, man. It comes right off and doesn't make a dent.
I might have to get you in to help me with that, because it's been a long time since I think I would have imposter syndrome now for doing a project. It's been a long time since I've done a project. So what are you doing next week? No. I love following your content. I love following your projects. I think you're giving an outlet for other people to feel, yeah, I can try that too. I can do that too. And really if you fail, you fail. Like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If the light shatters,
well, yeah, I like
shatters.
that it's like we said, like about this podcast having a built-in kind of like the whole brand of it is trial and error. And whatever outcome that is the outcome that it is. So I think there's a little less pressure there in terms of it having to be, perfectly polished, but also just a really nice way for people to be able to engage with you and also get inspiration or just entertainment. I love to watch things that I know I will never do or have the skill set to do. But I love to watch them come to life. It's very entertaining for me. And I love to see something from start to finish and really see how it ends up in the process and in there. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So if you aren't following Megan right now, make sure you're following on Instagram at Make It Like Megs, because I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed following you. I like you anyway.
I like you too.
I like you. Yeah. We're going to hand this over to Alex for the speed round.
Nervous.
Are you nervous? Isn't it funny how
everybody's so nervous about these questions?
I don't know why.
Everyone says. They're getting
think on the
nervous
spot
here. Yeah. I'm not good at thinking on the spot. My brain stops.
Digging deep here. See if we can get some different ones. Okay. All right, here we go. 5 questions. Answer them however you would like.
Okay.
What is your favorite type of food?
Ooh, I love ice cream and tacos. Yeah.
mean, those are great. Those great.
You
Tacos
like
happen a
those
lot. Well,
too.
I don't love tacos, but my son loves tacos. So there's a lot of tacos in our house, like at least once a week, sometimes twice. But I do love ice cream.
Like ice cream and tacos
Oops,
too.
I just ripped this one.
Comfort food.
If you could have an unlimited supply of one thing, what would it be?
Ice cream and tacos.
That's two things.
Don't tempt me, Colleen.
Ice cream tacos.
Ooh.
Wood probably for you. Would it be unlimited supply of something?
Yeah, probably. Tools and renovation supplies because I could just do whatever with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second story.
Second story. Here we go.
What is your favorite dessert? Oh, I've already answered this one, but
Yeah, probably a DQ Blizzard cake or like a log cake or a Blizzard treat.
You like DQ.
I love DQ.
Yeah.
yum.
I don't like the price of DQ, but
It's expensive, but that fudge.
Yeah,
the
the
fudge
and the
chocolate
cookie
layer.
combo.
Oh yeah,
You
so
can
good.
order cakes with double fudge. If you order them ahead of time, you can ask for double fudge.
I miss them. They're not nut free, so I can't have them. But
Oh.
I miss them.
my husband is his brother was really diagnosed celiac as a kid and like would get really sick. And so he said they always had to get the DQ cake but not have the cookie because it had gluten in it.
It's like the worst.
I'm like,
part.
what a horrible thing. That's my favorite part.
That's my favorite part too.
Yes. Dogs or cats?
Dogs, 100%.
Usually that one's pretty polarizing for
Well, I
people.
have the best dog
You have
ever.
a pretty good dog. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one is tricky. If you could travel back in time, which era would you visit? Maybe it's not tricky. I don't know. People seem to struggle with that one sometimes.
You know what's funny? I really loved my great grandfather. Like he was so cool and he used to work for the railroads back in the day. And he was, I don't know when it would be, but like I would say probably back to like the 50s, 60s, maybe even earlier, whenever he was working. Because it would be so cool to just travel around with him. He was a chef for the railroad. And I just would think that would be so cool to like go around with him and watch him cook for people on the train.
That's cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I almost would like to go to the future and see what that nonsense is going to be like someday. But
How far in the
That's another
future?
question in here.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. How far in the future would you want to go?
I would say if I had more, like I have a baby now, but if I was like, we probably will have more kids, I would say if everything works out. So I would want to go like long enough to see great grandkids if they decided to have them. So I could like hang out with them, you know?
Neat.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's
and they
probably
wouldn't have
what
to
I would-
know, and you wouldn't mess up the time-space continuum or whatever.
Yeah, you just sit back and relax and watch it all unfold.
Watch. That's so cool. Thank you for coming and joining the podcast today. It's lovely to have you
Thanks for having me.
on. You're always a lot of fun. I enjoy spending time with you.
Thank
So
you.
Yeah, it was great to meet you and chat with you and
too.
learn more about your approach. I love it.
yeah. And if you're out there and you got a project in mind, whether it's a craft project or a big project, big build, you know what? You can do it. You can
Yeah.
get at it. And
Or at the very least, you can watch somebody else
or
do
you
it.
can watch Meg do it. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for being
Yeah,
on.
thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Sisters. Please remember, we're not doctors or mental health experts. If you're looking for mental health guidance, please see our show notes for local resources. Until next time, keep your head high, and we will see you next Tuesday.